Hey, welcome back to the channel. We're once again taking a look at the brand new Roland Fantom workstation today. And today I'm going to zero in on something that I think can get very confusing when you're approaching an instrument like this at first. And it kind of doesn't matter which brand of workstation you're looking at, whether it's Roland or somebody else. This is an area that gets everybody confused. And what Roland refers to it in this case is the zone control part of the panel. It's this part right here. Now, you can look in the manual. That's what they call it. It's the zone control area. And you can read that page or two in the manual. And I guarantee you, even if you've been playing synthesizers for quite some time and even working with workstations for quite some time, you can walk away really confused and not knowing what the heck is going on with this part of the controls. And that confusion is understandable because take a look at the following, for instance. This is a straight out of the box Fantom. I've actually did a factory restore to initialize it back to the condition you get it when you take it out of the box, and watch what happens. I call up my first scene, and again, remember everything on the Fantom is a scene. It's inside of a scene. And I've got this piano pad layer thing together. And for some reason that button's on, and these two buttons on, and for some reason all these other sliders seem to be to particular values, but there doesn't appear to be any rhyme or reason to that as far as I can tell. I mean, when I play, great, I get a piano and I get a layer just like they say, but I don't know why those buttons are lit. I don't know why that one's lit. It says select, and these are just numbered 1 through 8. I have no idea what's going on here. And as I go around to other scenes, something similar is going on. This stuff lights up or doesn't, and you can't initially tell why. I mean, take a scene like this. This is selected. It says no answer. It says pulsating. And it's got a pattern in it. I can see that the little box here says PTN. That means there's some kind of a sequence. But these aren't lit up. But there's volume levels, apparently, or something here. So hit play. I'm going to go over here and hit the play button. Well, I kind of don't get it. There's a lot going on there. We go into zone view, and sure enough, we can see, yeah, there's a whole lot that's assigned in here. And if I hit play again, you can see all these other things have activity going on, but I don't understand because only number 2 is selected and the rest of I don't get it. I don't know what's going on there. So let's explore this and let's figure out how that's happening. One of the things you'll note is if you go into a pattern like this, actually, let's do this differently. I like to always set something up so that you can see how it gets set up. I'm going to go over to D128, an initial scene, and I'm going to set up a set of zones or a scene. I'm going to set up the zones in this scene. And that's what we call all of these, is a zone. And that's sort of analogous to a track in the sequencer. So you can more or less use those terms interchangeably. Well, I've got this one selected, or I've got that one selected, or I've got that one selected. And look what happens. As I hit the select buttons here, they are also selected within this scene zone view, okay? If I hit the zone button so that I'm controlling 9 through 16, guess what? It'll pop on down to 16, or I can go back to zone 1, it'll pop there. So that tells me that if I'm selecting that, I'm playing it, or so it seems. I'm going to go ahead and select an electric piano there, and I did that by just hitting the electric piano key over here, and I'm going to hit the enter key, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to select a different piano because I want something that's a little bit more distinct for this demonstration. Okay, great, fine. I'm now going to select this second zone, and I'm going to put something in there. Now, or I'm going to hit the pad button. You can't see me doing it. It's over here on the right. Pads, and I'm going to just take the first thing that comes up, and that's shine pad. And then on the third zone, and watch what happens. It doesn't matter whether I select it here or whether I select it here. These two things go together. See? If I hit it on the screen, it shows up over there. If I hit it over there in the buttons, it shows up in the screen. I'm going to go back to pads. I'm going to enter that pad list of sounds, and I'm going to use analog atmosphere, one of my favorite sounds in here. It's kind of got an electric piano synthetic vibe to it. And again, you'll notice, boom, here we go. It's selected. So that's what I'm doing in this zone. When I go back to zone view, I'll see I made a change to that zone. That's the first kind of key that you got to keep in mind, is that when you select something, that means you're going to change it or you're going to edit it. So for instance, if I hit this guy or select it in the touch screen and I go over where you can't see right now to the filter control and I enable it, I'm now editing that. Okay, so if I want to edit something or change something, I'm selecting it. That sort of makes sense. Now, what doesn't seem to make sense in some cases is like, okay, well, I get it. If I want to play something, and that's kind of neat because what I could do is set up a scene so that I can just quickly go back and forth between some different parts of a song. Like maybe I'm playing electric piano in some part, and I'm going to play this pad in a different part while the singer's doing the big singing, and then I'm going to go over to another part of the song and use this analog sound. Okay, great. So you can set up a scene that way, and that's an easy way to switch between a number of sounds. But what if you want to do layers? Well, let's say I wanted to take this electric piano sound, this SAEP, and I want to layer it with that analog atmosphere sound. Well, you'd think that what you do is you hit this button here, right? Because that'll enable it, right? But nothing's happening. Huh. But if I select it, and that's enabled, now I get just the analog atmosphere sound. If I leave that enabled and I hit the second thing and I'm on Shine Pad, what's going on here? This doesn't seem to be very useful. Well, the little trick you got to remember is that by default, if you select a sound, it's going to play. So no matter what, if you've selected that sound, you're playing that sound. But if you want to layer things, you have to enable every part of the layer. And that also holds true if you're going to do splits or, divide up the keyboard into various zones where you're going to play different parts. You could have bass down here and maybe piano in the middle and a lead part up top here or something like that. You must enable everything that you want to play from the keyboard at once. So if I enable all of them, and it may not be really obvious that I've enabled all of them because we'll turn up the electric piano, we'll bring in a little bit of that Shine Pad, we'll bring in that analogs part. Now this brings up an interesting question. Why does that work that way? That seems to be a little bit counterintuitive, a little bit off for some reason. Well, the reason why that's the way it is because it gives you a very flexible way to edit things in context. What do I mean by that? Well, say I like this overall kind of feel, this vibe I've got going on here, and I'm playing around with the mix of how I've got them together. But I think that Shine Pad, I don't know, it comes on a little too bright. So I want to select it. I'll go over to my filter section, and in the context of the sound, I can hear how the changes I make work in the context of this whole scene that I'm putting together. So make it a little mellower. Maybe choose a different filter type. I'm able to edit it while hearing how that edit of that one sound affects its relationship to the other sounds in that layer. Same thing with the other sounds. I can select that analog atmosphere and notice that even when I'm in my edit screen for filtering, if I change the zone, it changes to show me what sound and what zone I'm editing. Well, maybe I want to make that analog atmosphere sound. I want to make a change to that. Well, let's crank up the filter on that one. Okay, so I can hear the whole layer together while editing the one sound. Well, what if I say, I really can't hear what's going on with that analog atmosphere sound. I want to turn the other guys off for a second so I can zero in on just that sound and listen to it, and then I'll enable it again and bring it back into the layer that I've put together in this scene. Well, all I have to do, since selecting a sound by default means that sound's going to be both played and controlled by the panel, but disabling that as a part of the overall layer that I've got going on, that means I'm only working on that sound now. So if I want to, I can work on the sound by having it enabled and selected all at once. I can work on it in context. And if I want to hear it all by itself, all I have to do is disable that so the other layers are not playing, even though they're enabled. It's only going to play the layer that I've got selected. And so now I'm listening to that in isolation. I'm not so sure I like that. Let's turn the resonance down. Let's go to a Moog type filter. Let's brighten that up a little bit. I like that better. Now I can enable the whole thing. And I can hear the whole thing in context. So if you kind of wrap your head around that a little bit, it means that it's really flexible in terms of editing and sculpting your sound exactly the way you want it. You can set up a layer. You can listen to that whole layer at once. Zoom in on just the part of that layer that you want to edit, but listen to it as a part of the layer, or you can listen to only that thing, and then when you're done editing it, bring it back into the layer. Hopefully that shows off how the zone control section works, at least the basics of it, and you can see how that's a really powerful tool to sculpt the sound of a layer or your overall zone sounds and tracks and what you've got going on there. Really powerful. Allows you to zoom in on something or edit it in context of the whole scene. That's all I've got for you today. Hopefully that's enough to wrap your head around for this little 12-15 minute segment. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.